Hi guys, welcome to accounting. Today we're going to be working in the general journal and posting to the general ledger for transactions for King's Interiors. On your screen you will see the instructions for King's Interiors, and your directions say you have been given the chart of accounts for King's Interiors along with a list of their transactions for December. Your task today is to record the transactions in the general journal and then post them to the general ledger. So that's what we're going to be working through today. You see on your screen, step 1 is you are going to be recording the December transactions for King's Interiors in the general journal, and here is a link to the general journal. Then after you enter all of your transactions, you're going to be posting the transactions from the general journal into the general ledger, and here is a link to the general ledger. So when you are finished, you're going to be uploading both of these documents into Canvas, and these are going to be located in your Google Drive because these are Google Docs. So you can upload both of them at the same time. Now let's take a look at the chart of accounts and the transactions. If you scroll down your screen, you will see a list of the transactions. Here is the chart of accounts broken down as assets, liabilities, and capital. You see the account numbers here and your revenue and expense accounts. And then here is a list of transactions. You have the date of the transaction description, and the amount that is included in the transaction. So the first thing you will do is you're going to come to your link for the general journal, and you'll click the general journal. You're going to make a copy, and then you're going to start entering the transactions. The first thing on the general journal, remember we're doing different things now, so let's make sure you put page 1 on the general journal, and your first transaction is Mrs. King deposited $30,000 to open her business account, and that was on December the 1st. So let's put our date. The year goes here, and then remember the first thing you put here is your debit entry. And since Mrs. King began her business account by depositing $30,000, we're going to debit cash. Remember you list your debit first, and then your debit is $30,000. And then you're going to credit Mrs. King capital. And you can see what account to use from your chart of accounts. And it's $30,000. Now something different that we're going to be doing today, since you have a chart of accounts, we're going to be using the posting reference when we post to the general ledger. First, before we go there, we are going to put our transaction description. So we can say Mrs. King began business. All right. And let's go back to our Canvas, our instructions in Canvas, and we're going to go now to the general ledger because we have the general journal, and now we're going to do the general ledger because we're going to post this entry into the general ledger. So again, I click the link, and I am making a copy. And now we're going to be entering our transactions. We're going to be putting our account names and account numbers from the chart of accounts. So you can take a moment and do that from the chart of accounts if you would like, The first one is always cash. We're going to go in the order of what is on the chart of accounts, and it's number 110. The next one will be accounts receivable, and it's going to be numbered 120. Supplies is number 130, and so on. Okay, so now that we have our accounts labeled, and this is in the ledger, let's take a look at the ledger and just review what we have learned before. The ledger is a little bit different than the journal. You have a page for each account here, and it has its account number. So this is a summary of everything that happens in the account. In this column, you're going to put the date, and then in the account title, you're going to put the transaction description, and then your posting reference is going to come back from the general journal, because remember, it's going to be general journal page 1. So let's enter our first entry. Remember, Mrs. King invested $30,000 to open her business, and that was on 12/1. So let's put our date. And then from the ledger, we can just say Mrs. King began business, because usually you're going to use your same transaction description here than you do in the journal. Now, if you want to look back here, you want to make sure that you've got your account number, and here's your description. So I'm going to go back here. Our posting reference, remember, we made this page 1 in the general journal. So we're going to make this GJ1, because it stands for General Journal page 1. And then our transaction was a $30,000 debit to cash, so we're entering it here as a debit. Now these columns here that say general, this is coming directly from the general journal. You're going to enter whatever the transaction is. These columns here, this is the balance, and you're going to keep a running balance of the amount in this account. So, for example, the balance is going to be $30,000 debit, because you have made a debit entry here, so you have increased your balance. So it currently has a balance of $30,000. Now, the other half of the entry was to credit Mrs. King capital, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to come down here, and we're going to make the other half of the entry. Okay, and our posting reference is still going to be GJ1, because that was page 1 of the general journal. Now remember, in the journal, we made a credit to capital. So we're going to make a credit entry here, and then it will have a credit balance of $30,000, because that's the current balance in the account. Now let's look at our second transaction. The second transaction says Mrs. King bought glass shelves for displays for $2,500 on account. So we are going to say, and that was on December the 5th. So let's enter our date, and let's go back and look if she bought shelves on account. So let's look at our chart of accounts. And we see that shelves is an asset, so it's not cash, it's not accounts receivable, so we're going to put it in supplies. So here is supplies. We're going to debit it. for $2,500. And then she bought it on account. So that's going to be accounts payable. $2,500. And she purchased shelves on account. Okay, now I want to back up and go back to this last transaction because there's something that I forgot to tell you. As you are posting this to the ledger, you see that you posted it to account 110. You're going to come back to the journal and you're going to enter the posting reference. Here is going to be the account number that you posted to. And capital Mrs. King is account 310. Now, a word of advice is I would not fill this column out until you post it into the ledger. As you post, come back and put your account numbers in. That way you can keep track of where you are to make sure that you have posted it. That way, for example, this is blank. You know if it's blank, you haven't posted it to the ledger yet. Just something that would help you out. So let's go ahead and post the second entry. We're going to post to supplies. So let's go to the copy of the ledger and we're going to go down to supplies. And this was on December the 5th. And we're going to say purchased shelves on account. And our posting reference, again, we're on page 1, so it's going to be GJ1 because it came from General Journal, page 1. And it's an asset, so we're going to debit it. And again, we don't have a balance here yet, so our balance is going to be $2,500. And then the other half of the entry is going to be to accounts payable because we purchased shelves on account. Our posting reference will be GJ1. It came from General Journal, page 1. And we're increasing accounts payable. Accounts payable is a liability and it has a credit balance. So, $2,500, since we made a credit here, we're going to increase our credit balance here. And now, accounts payable has a balance of $2,500. Since we entered this in the ledger, we're going to go back to the journal now, and we're going to put our posting references in so we know that we have posted these entries to the ledger. So our account number for supplies is 130 and account number for accounts payable is 210. Okay, I'd like to do one more entry to show you how the cash account works. The third entry is Mrs. King bought supplies for $400 cash, and that was on December 7th. So I'm going to go to December 7th. And she bought supplies, so we're going to debit supplies for $400. Since she paid cash, we're going to credit cash for $400. And we're just going to say purchased supplies. Now, if you just say purchased supplies, you know that's going to be cash. If you say on account, you know that's going to be accounts payable. So you don't have to say purchased supplies for cash here. You can just say purchased supplies. So let's go to the ledger and enter this. Now we're going to go back to supplies. And this one is December 7th. And we can just say